Welcome back to another episode of Strength in the Details. We are back for another episode of our coaching and leadership series, and I'm joined today by Coach Kevin Doherty, founder of Hassle Free Barbell Coach Club. He has been coaching weightlifting for at a high level for quite some time for Team USA since about 2007, so almost 20 years now. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
How's it going? It's good to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. Tell us about yourself and how you got into the sport of weightlifting. How'd you get here?
Like two people. This guy, Tony Chiarelli, I went to a strength and conditioning conference in 1999, and I saw him do basically a demo of what he does with his high school kids. And I said, where can I learn how to do this? And he said, go see Jim Schmitz. So Jim Schmitz was a coach, multiple time Olympic coach, and who was in my hometown. I had no idea who he was. So at 22 years old, I went to go start training with him and my brother. And then about 6 months later, we just started our weightlifting team because it's like, I can figure this out. And then I spent about 23 years, at two different schools doing it, kids in PE lifting and football players and track and field kids. And we had a tremendous amount of success. My brother does the same thing now up in Folsom. And then, COVID hit, so we had to make some adjustments. So now we're at a gym, a commercial gym. We have our own commercial gym. It's kind of like a garage door pull-up, as well as a really, if I'm being honest, a really, really nice home gym. It's a separate building because we had anywhere between 50 and 75 kids training at the house every day during COVID.
Wow.
Because everything was closed.
Right.
And nobody got sick, and I think we did it the right way. We brought them in as pods of school, right? Like you could only train with the people you went to school with. Mm-hmm. And we had 4 waves a day for a year. And then after that, we were able to find a gym location. So we're kind of like at a point now where it's a hodgepodge of school kids and adults. But the commercial space gives us access to kids that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to find or couldn't find us, because now we're on a street and you can give somebody the address and they can come in between 3:30 and 7 and learn how to lift, and it's not like expensive. So we've never turned anybody away. So we still have that school philosophy of like, hey, this is kind of like a public good, understanding that we have to make some money because we have to pay the coaches. But thankfully, we're in a position where we've never had to turn anybody away because they can't afford it. So that's kind of where we're at now.
I think that's really, really inspiring, because one of the things that we know is that there are certain aspects of weightlifting that can be a little inaccessible for certain types of people, certain demographics of people. From maybe this is anecdotally from your experience, how did training during the pandemic, having this space, having access to weightlifting, impact the mental health of these kids, the resilience of these kids during a very trying time?
Yeah, and I think, if I'm being totally honest, like what our society failed to do for children during COVID is, it's going to haunt us for a generation. I'm a 46-year-old white dude. I was dropping my children off at bilingual education in the suburbs, mm-hmm. and then going to teach online Zoom to students that were first gen, some of color, some not of color, whatever. They were all first gen kids trying to go to college, trying to apply to college on Zoom with no physical in-person support. And it just, did the best I could, but it wasn't the same as being in school. And that was really kind of like changed the trajectory for me. So we opened up our home to kids to come and train. And then we opened up the gym. Our gym opened in 2020, December. We had a weightlifting meet. Wow. I was like, you know what? If the county's okay with X amount of people, we're very lucky. We had 6,000 square feet at the time. Now we're in a smaller place, but it's ours. We ran weightlifting meets. We had pods coming in. So I think between December of 2020 and when we moved to another location, I think we had anywhere between 250 and 300 kids come through the door in those 2 years. And then when it was at my house, it was great. Kids would ride their bikes It started totally organically. The neighbor kid was a football player, and I'm like, "Yo, dude, what are you doing?" Nothing. I said, why don't you come over and learn how to snatch and clean a jerk? Tongan kid. And then he found out that I was coaching a Tongan girl that was trying to go to the Olympics. So we had some street cred with the Tongan population. And I live in East Palo Alto, which is still a very, very large Tongan population still lives here. So kids were coming out of the woodwork, literally, like two different kids every day. Like, hey, I heard about it from my buddy, roll up their bike. So we'd have Team Tonga hour at like 11. We'd have another football team come in at 1. And then afternoon was 3 and 5 o'clock, like two different other schools. Kids from the city would come down, and then kids from a private Catholic high school would come with their strength coach. So we had 4 schools come in to work out at the house. And every one of those schools came back to football, and they did really, really well because everybody else was sitting on their butt. So
Yeah.
I think, I'd love to think that we gave them a place where they could be social
Right.
and
Right.
not on their phones. Because that's the number one rule in the weight room, no phones.
I love that rule.
There's no
I
phones
love
at the
that rule.
Olympics. There's a picture of me coaching Jenny Arthur at the Olympics, and there's no phone, there's no headsets. The greatest thing about Jenny is, as she got better, she listens. She's a pretty religious person, so she listens to gospel music during her dynamic warm up. But the minute her hands touch the bar, she looks at me, and I was like, and she takes them off. It's game time, and she's able to talk to me, and she's able to, have some type of physical relationship during the warm up.
Hmm.
And I tell this story to every level 1 person that I coach at my certs. In her best moment, her best moment came out of failure. She missed her opening clean and jerk in 2019 in Thailand. And there's a video of me talking to her while she's in between attempts. And there's an actual conversation going on. And the thing that I asked her, I said, Jenny, how do you feel? She's like, I feel good. We need to go up. So maybe the only time in my coaching career at that level, I took somebody up for an attempt after a miss. And she ended up making it. And then the next conversation was, obviously, how do you feel? She's like, I feel great. I was like, we're going to put whatever it takes to win a medal on the bar. She's like, do it.
Let's do it.
And then we ended up, making some changes. Other people made some mistakes. And then she ended up making 139, which she had missed the year before for the gold medal. And I think it's because there was a better connection because she was unplugged, so to speak. And she
Yeah.
was more in tune with what she could do as a lifter. She knew she could make it, but she was able to verbalize it. It's very hard to explain because Jenny's a very private, quiet person, and I don't think she verbalized that in 2018.
Mm.
She knew it was at stake. I told her, I was like, hey, this wins it. But she hadn't verbalized it herself. It's almost like she crushed it clean, missed a jerk out in front. But it's like she missed a jerk like 4 years in a row. And only when she was able to verbalize it with her own language was she able to make it. 2016, she missed the clean for the bronze. 2017, she got called for a press out for the bronze. 2018, she missed the gold, clean and jerk. 2015, she missed 140, which if I have to look back, it would have put her in the medal position at that point. The North Korean girl came back and made some crazy 150 something. So I don't think she would have won a medal, but you never know. You make a lift, other people might choke. It's a lot easier to
Right.
make a lift when there's no pressure. So I guess the point is, having verbalized that 5 years later of saying, I can do it, go up, is kind of, it kind of points to the importance of human connection, right? So you go back to COVID with no human connection except for weightlifting. And, they had a very supportive wife, and we had 50 children at our house every day.
Mm.
Outside, beautiful equipment, but it's still like our neighbors didn't complain. My wife didn't complain. We kind of had a system. Kids couldn't come in the house. If they had to wash their hands, they had to wash their hands in the garage. All these rules so that people wouldn't get sick. You exit one way, you came through the back, and then you exited through the front. It's kind of weird.
Okay.
Just so we wouldn't attract attention and people. And then there was a school behind us, and now was closed. So that was
Right.
like the dichotomy of the world we were living in. A school for predominantly Black, Latino, and Tongan children closed.
Mm.
Like literally a stone's throw fence over. And then in my backyard, all those children that were in school were lifting weights.
Are doing weightlifting. One thing I think about, as a now master's athlete, God, this is the first time I've said that out loud. Um, I speak with senior athletes all the time, experienced athletes all the time, and the thing that 90% of us could agree on is that we wish that we would have started earlier. We wish that we would have had weightlifting or sport development in our life earlier. You've coached a ton of really awesome athletes at all different ages. We just talked about Jenny Arthur, who is an Olympian. What are the benefits of getting into weightlifting specifically at a young age?
So I'll use the two examples I have living at my house. I have a son who's 8 and a daughter who's 11. And we're very blessed. They're healthy. My wife was a weightlifter, so that helps. We use it, it's like a tool. We're not just making them lift weights. My daughter does dance. She plays a little bit of basketball. She does a little bit of gymnastics just for funsies, right? She's not like a pro at anything. But the one thing that maintains her after school activity throughout the whole year is weightlifting, because she does it every Thursday and every Monday. And then when the gym is, when there's no Saturday activity, she comes to the gym. So the perfect world is like 3 days a week you're lifting. And we're talking 2 exercises a day because there's 11. And my son is 8. So he's a little better at weightlifting. And we didn't make him start. Like, he started during COVID when people were coming at our house and he was like 4 years old. But with him, he plays Pop Warner football and he plays a little bit of rugby and he likes basketball and he's doing flag football. So he's doing a bunch of stuff. We're still trying to figure out if he wants to do baseball. The theory is do weightlifting 3 days a week and try everything else under the sun. And then you come back and you tell mom and dad what you like and what you don't like. So he likes football because there's a social component. He definitely likes weightlifting because he's like the cool kid on the block because he's 8 years old working out with the high school kids, right? And then he doesn't really like rugby because he has to tackle bigger people that are older. He loves basketball because he runs around. He's not very good at it. He'll probably be bored to crap with baseball, but he can hit left-handed. So maybe it's like, hey, son, if you can hit left-handed and you're clean and jerking your body weight and you're 8 years old, you might be able to hit the ball pretty hard. So I think the way you use weightlifting is you introduce it as a tool and then you let kids figure out what they're good at. I just had a conversation with this young woman. Her name's Kaya. She's in 8th grade. I said, listen, Kaya, 8th grade, you can do everything. Student body president, basketball, cheer, popular girl, softball, this and that. In high school, you're picking 2 things. If you want to play softball at a high level, you play softball. But when you're not playing softball, you're in here lifting weights because you're number 1 in the country. And you're not number 1 in the country in basketball, cheer, student council, volleyball, or softball.
Right.
So we talked about, because she says she struggles in math. And I'm like, no, you're just lazy. You have to have, as you get older, an inverse relationship between how good you are at something, right? Your ranking. So, and the amount of time you spend on it. So if you're ranked number 1 in weightlifting, you might want to spend 33% of your time weightlifting, right? 3 or 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, because you're number 1, right? But if you're the number 10,000 point guard on your 8th grade girls basketball team, you might not want to like practice 3 times a week if that means you're going to miss 2 days a week of weightlifting. So I think as you get older, you have to balance that. You have to balance, like, I can't do everything, but I still want to be well-rounded. But I know that I'm really, really good at weightlifting. Kids know when they're good at weightlifting. They can feel it. They can feel it. And there's, for us, we're lucky. There's examples of like that in the gym. There were 3 girls this year that were 13 and under that were all number 1 in the country. And they all went to American Open final. And they're the only ones I invited in that age group to go to the American Open final. So at the AO finals is my 8-year-old son and 3 number 1s. And my son's number 1 in the country because he's, there's not a lot of 8-year-olds lifting, and he's won the 13 and under American Open because he's pretty good. But he's pretty good because there's 3 other girls pushing him that are number 1. So try to do that until they get to be about 15. And then once you make a youth world team, you got to kind of buckle down, and you got to kind of just be a weightlifter, and then make sure you're well rounded, physically, like yoga, walk, whatever, like
Hmm.
CrossFit, even,
What do
for
you
general
what do you say
conditioning.
to the parents who, strength fear that strength sports increase injury? Because that's what we hear a lot, and I feel like we spend a lot of time trying to educate the parents on the risk benefit of strength sports, barbell sports, and weightlifting specifically.
That's a really good question. Stanford just came out with a really, really good short article. Um, a lot of first gen parents don't, they come from a different world. So, but their kids are the best because they have the first generation, like, work ethic qualities. So the
Hmm.
challenge with the first gen parents is explaining to them, listen, this is going to help your kid not get hurt and be better. And then, oh, by the way, Stanford, the hospital that's 10 miles away, that's like super famous, just came out with this very simple article of, if your kid is mature enough to play organized sports on a team, they are mature enough psychologically and physiologically to do weightlifting under the supervision of a coach. And then the next step is, please come and watch the workout.
Mm.
Now, the benefit that I have is, anybody new come to the gym, I'm their first coach, right? So they're getting somebody. I'm not the best coach in the world, but I'm probably one of the best, like, recruiters in the world. I can sell any parent on weightlifting if they just come and watch me work with their kid, because
Okay.
it's like their first workout. It's almost like personal training, but there's all these other kids doing some variation of the workout around them. So, you know, I get in there, they go through everybody in the last 20 years has gone through the same, thank you so much, teaching progression. Every
Hmm.
single one. I just had this conversation with the college strength coach. I'm like, hey, can I help your coaches? They're taking too long to learn how to clean. And I was like, can I show you how we do it in 5 sets? And he's like, yeah, go right ahead. So I came over, and there's a 400-meter young woman from the Netherlands. She's 19. I said, okay, we're going to learn in 5 minutes. Are you ready? And she looked at me, and she's like, military press. Showed her military press. She had done it before, so that was quick. 5 military presses, 4 front squats, 3 front squats with a press, right? Layers upon layers.
Hmm.
And then this is what, like, sold her. I said, listen, you're going to get in your track stance, right? Your 800-meter track stance, power position. You're going to jump into the front squat with a press. So I showed her once, and then she did it. And I was like, you just learned how to clean. She's like, what do you mean? You just did a clean. You jumped into the front squat. I said, guess what? We're going to add one last thing. We're going to put these big, really heavy weights on. Oh, by the way, they're only 5 kilos. You're going to pull to your knee and jump into the front squat with a press. And she did it. And literally, I'm telling you, we did it on the minute. It was 5 minutes. She knew how to clean. So when parents come in, and if I could take their kid through that progression in 45 minutes with a
Hmm.
little bit more instruction, because they're new and they don't have this reservoir of athletic ability as college athletes do, they're like, oh. And I'm like, I always make the connection between what they're doing in the weight room and what they're doing on their field of play. Doesn't
Right.
matter if it's taekwondo, track, football, anything. If you take somebody through the clean progression, you're going to find the position in which they need to perform the best in one of those positions. So clean from the knee, running back, volleyball defense, basketball defensive stance, softball hitting stance, taekwondo fighting stance, whatever. Clean from the floor, there's your wrestling. There's all your ground based, your jujitsu, your Muay Thai, whatever. And then overhead, you have all your, like, hey, oh, my son's a pitcher, we can't lift overhead. No, you need to lift overhead, because if you can push press 100 kilos, you can probably throw the fastball a little bit farther. I mean,
Yeah.
a little bit harder, and you're not
Yeah.
going to get hurt. Because if you can
I
push press 100 kilos, you can probably throw that half kilo ball really, really fast.
I really, really wish that my softball coach embraced the sport of weightlifting. We didn't, I grew up in softball all the way until I pretty much went to college. And my strength and conditioning coach did not believe that we should be doing any pushing movements over the head. And I will say that here we are, 20 years later, and I probably could be a lot better at doing a push press or a jerk had someone allowed me to push things above my head at a young age.
So I think it goes back to what we talked about before we press record is less is more,
Hmm.
right? The guy who hired me to help at Menlo College one day a week showed me the workout for his high school football team, and I said, Coach Brankovich, he's really smart. He's intelligent. He's a dad. He's a good coach. He's an even better human being. I said, Coach, you're wasting a lot of time here. High pulls and shrugs, and they don't need to be separate exercises. I said, the kids will figure it out. You got to use one word, jump. Every football player has jumped in their life,
Hmm.
even if they've never played football before. And I was like, can I just come and show your 70 kids how to do this in 10 minutes versus like 10 weeks?
Right.
Because if they can front squat, they can clean. If they can't get all the way down, then they can power clean. I haven't met one kid. Because I did the math. I mean, 300 kids a year for 25 years, that's 7,500 kids. There's not one kid that has not been able to squat and clean. Not one. Like cerebral palsy was in my PE class like 10 years ago. Didn't speak any English. Did it take him a lot longer to learn how to clean? Yeah. But did he learn the exact same way? Yes. We just spent a semester on front squats because we couldn't
Right.
progress past front squats. So it's like, okay, we're going to front squat every day until you can do it. And then, the kid that had a disability that didn't speak English figured it out because everybody else was doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like he had 40 other coaches because every day we're doing front squat with a press. It's like, oh. So one day I walk out to PE class and there's the kid front squatting, pressing the 20 kilo bar. I'm like, what are
That's
you
pretty
doing?
awesome. It's pretty awesome.
Front squatting and press. It's on the workout. I'm like, yeah, but usually we just front squat and then we press. It's like, no, I can do it. And I was like, okay, if you can front squat with the press, we're going to do cleans today. And he looked at me like I was crazy. So he did his front squat with the press warm up, which is like 6 sets of 5. It's always like that. 6 sets of
Hmm.
5. I don't care. Like, my thing is, I don't care if you don't know what the workout is. If I come out here, you better be front squatting with the press. There's 40 platforms out here. I better see 40 kids with a bar in their hand, front squatting with a press until I'm ready to teach. And then he did it. And then we went back down to the 10 kilo bar and he jumped into the front squat with a press.
There you
Like
have it.
literally took him 2 reps. Did it take him 6 months to get there? Yes.
Right.
But he got there. So I'm just less is more. You don't need like 17 exercises in your strength and conditioning. You need to squat, you need to press, you need to pull, and you need to pull upper body pull. You need like 4 things. That's it. And if somebody's like anti weights, it's like okay. Instead of squatting 100 kilos for 5 sets of 5, you're going to do 100 body weight squats for 5 rounds because that's what you're going to need to get the same amount of tonnage. Oh, you don't want to do a deadlift with 100 kilos? Okay, you're going to do 5 sets of 100-yard lunges
Mm.
to be able to get the same amount of body weight, in the same amount of work. It's a math problem. Oh, you don't want to do push press? Okay, good. You're going to do 5 sets of 100 push-ups. And then they look at you and I'm like, yeah. So you can either do it my way, which is a lot easier because we're loading the weight for you,
Yeah.
or you can use your own body weight. Or if you think about push-ups, I weigh 80 kilos. When I'm doing a push-up, I'm maybe pushing 20 kilos. So just do the math. How many times do you need to push 20 kilos to get to your 5x5 80-kilo push press? And then, you don't want to do high pulls. You don't want to do a Romanian deadlift. Good. You're going to do 100 pull-ups. Now, if somebody can do that, your Herschel Walkers, your Bo Jacksons, more power to you. More power to you. You will play just as much,
Hmm.
but I can probably guarantee you that you're not like producing the same amount of power because you're just not going as fast.
Right.
Now, maybe you're a superstar, you're doing clap push-ups and you're doing like swinging muscle ups where you're extending off the bar and get like, yeah, gymnast, go ahead. You'll kick my butt any day. But if you're not a gymnast, if you're not a level 10 gymnast, you might want to lift some weights. And the level 10 gymnast might want to lift some weights so that they don't get broken, because
Yeah.
they all get broken. And they don't have good enough bone density. They don't have a good enough tensile strength because they only do things with their body weight. There's no overloading. There's no overloading of the skeletal structure. It's like, it's simple stuff.
Not to mention the attention span of youth athletes. Being able to incorporate one or two movements that's going to transfer into whatever sport they're doing, whatever activity they're doing, helps a ton when you're talking about just the level of attention that you have from some of these younger athletes. What are some of the other unique challenges that you've experienced coaching youth athletes?
I wouldn't label them as challenges. It's an opportunity.
Okay.
It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to communicate how important this is to another human being, right? And then to their parents. And whether kids love the weight room or not, they're all benefiting from it. Like, I'm in a different situation now. I've always been in a situation where people have chosen to come. They're already sold by the time I'm there. My job is to make sure I solidify the sale, so to speak, of like, get them after one day to understand how it connects to their sport, or how it connects to, like, hey, I want to be a weightlifter. Okay. Well, you see that kid over there on the wall that went to, a clean jerk 210, that went to Pan Am Championships? That guy started just like you. And we're lucky, there was always somebody on the wall that you could look at and be like, that's me. Whether
Yeah.
you're a girl, a boy, or you're black, white, Chinese, Filipino, Tongan.
Yeah.
Everywhere you looked in the weight room, there was a picture of somebody that was your peer or who had walked the same steps before you to do that. And I think it's the easiest sell. Look
Yeah.
at that. Every Tongan kid that comes into the weight room, especially the girls, it's like, that girl did it before you. You know how she learned how to lift? What you're doing today. We have 3 workouts when they start. That's it. They do 3 workouts for the first like 5 years of their lifting. There's a clean progression, a snatch progression, and then a strength progression.
Mm.
And then, like, I know this podcast is not about like the minutia of coaching, but since 2016, I haven't taught one kid how to split jerk because it's not in the progression. They want to split jerk, they figure it out. The progression is military press, push press, power jerk, and then back squat or front squat. That's like the 3rd day of the progression. First day of progression is cleans, then snatches, then the overhead. But out of those 7,500 kids, there's only 2 Olympians. So why would I teach the other set? There's only 500 competitive weightlifters, maybe. Let's just say 10%, 750. So I just saved myself 6,000 people trying to learn how to split jerk. Keep it simple. When kids learn how to split jerk on our team, when they can clean something and they can't jerk it.
Mm.
And
They
that
can't
takes a
power jerk
while.
it. Yeah.
Some kids still can power jerk their best clean. So it's like, why am I going to add something when it's not needed? High
Right.
school football player guy, do we really need to know how to split jerk? Maybe for some skill transference, yes. But is it worth the time? Is it worth 45 minutes of my time and their time? And then, oh, by the way, we only did the bar? Or is it better just to bang out 9 sets of 3 at 100 kilos in the power jerk? What's more beneficial? Right?
We talked a lot about your training philosophy, which I totally love, by the way. Keep it simple. We get a lot of youth athletes that come in. We get athletes in general that come in and they want to go 0 to 100 in day 1. And they want complexes and they want, they more. We had an athlete actually a couple days ago, kind of in a deload phase. And he's like, I finished my workout. I want more. Can I do more? And I go, no, you can't, athlete. You can go recover. You can go rest. You can go eat. You can go sleep. You can do all of the other things that matter outside of the gym, outside of doing more work. You don't need more work at this point. How do you help an athlete define success?
Oh, that's a good question. You have a lot of really good questions.
I try.
So it's perfect timing. 2 weeks ago, we sent out an email to everybody in the gym, and we're inclusive, right? You include everybody, masters, athletes. It's up to them to what they do with the information. And we asked them for Three goals: short-term goal, long-term goal for weightlifting, and then a life goal. So Nini, the young Tongan woman that went to the Olympics, is probably there are about 3 or 4 kids, I'd say 6 or 7, that where I think I can give myself a little bit of credit for their development as a human being along with weightlifting. But let's use Nini. Nini was in my academic and PE class. She had me twice a day for 4 years. So it's either going to work really, really well or it's not going to work at all, right? With her, it worked really, really well because she's a great kid. And she took me for who I was with all my faults, right? But we would do this thing in academics where every Monday we would set a goal for the week. And I was like, we need to do this in weightlifting. So at the end of every meet, we asked the kids to come up with another goal. And we always do short term, long term, because it's really important to have something touchable and tangible in the next 6 weeks.
Right.
And we always tell them it doesn't have to be about weightlifting. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I want to snatch 60 kilos. It could be like, I want to get better in the power position. I want to feel better from the floor. I want to qualify for junior nationals. I want to try to win a medal at junior nationals or youth nationals or whatever. And then we always incorporate a life goal. And I think this is what we've done better than maybe anybody else. Not because other people don't know what they're doing. They don't have the opportunity. We were able to help kids apply to college because they applied to college in my class and guide them to where they should go to school. So learn from all our combined mistakes as coaches. So for example, Nini grew up in a public housing project, loving family. Thank God they're safe. It's not the greatest place to live, but it's not the worst place to live either. Loving family, mom and dad, great. Everybody had a job. She was already an international medalist. And it's like, Nini, I'm going to make you apply to UC Berkeley, San Francisco State, some private school, right? Like USF or something. And we're going to go where it makes the most amount of sense financially. So she didn't get into Berkeley. She had a crappy junior first semester. She kind of got caught up with the hype of weightlifting and missed a couple assignments. She went to the youth world and won a medal and like all this stuff, right? So she ends up at San Francisco State. Well, she was able to train for the Olympics from her home gym. She broke her patella, unbeknownst to us. And in 2020, when the Olympics were supposed to happen, she broke her patella and she broke it like at my house doing a 60-kilo front squat. It was already broken. It's just like she heard something. Because we had really advocated for her to stay home, she was able to utilize her health care and see the Warriors doctor.
Wow.
I get a phone call in the backyard in the middle of COVID saying, hey, coach, this is such and such. I'm here with Nini. I'm like, hey, doc, thanks. He's like, this is what we're going to do. She's got a broken patella. We are going to schedule surgery the day after every one of her follow-up appointments for the next 6 months. And I said, doc, that's great. Can you tell me why? Well, she doesn't need surgery. We can always cancel. But if it's not healing, we're putting a screw in it so she can train for the Olympics. And I was like, that is so smart because it put the onus on Nini to do her rehab. To her credit, she did a great job rehabbing. She had been doing the wrong rehab before because we didn't know what was wrong with her knee. We thought it was tendonitis. So she was actually making the fracture worse over 18 months during the qualifying period.
Wow.
But since she was at home and then was able to train at my house with other coaches and have access to this wonderful healthcare system because nobody was getting surgeries during COVID.
Right.
But the
Especially
Warriors
elective.
Yeah. So, and I said, she just needs to be ready to train in February. And doc said, no problem. So thankfully, she didn't need surgery. It healed like great. Was she her best at the Olympics? No. But a year later, she did great at the Commonwealth Games. And then now she was able to take a break. She's graduating from college this semester. And I told her, I was like, I want you to work, but I need you to tell me after you graduate, I'll give you a month. You tell me whether you want to train for 2026 Commonwealth Games or not. I need to know because then if it's a no, then I take my time and invest it somewhere else. And she helps the gym in other ways and stuff like that. But I think that's kind of we have so much help. It's so much like the network of helping kids through that process. And we've never told a kid not to go to school.
Hmm.
We've never told a kid, even the kids at the training center were like, you need to go to class. You need to do some type of continuing education. Oh, you're on a stipend? Great. The stipend is going to run out at some point. You're going to need some skill set. It doesn't have to be a college degree, but it needs to be something.
Right.
So I think, the fact that, we have teachers, and I was a teacher for a long time, and coming from that mindset, I can help every wave of kid a little bit better each time. So we have the girl's number one youth. She's a junior. I said, listen, you got 3 points. It's really good. But if you can get into San Francisco State or San Jose State, or even go to the junior college and do a tag program. Out here, they have this thing called tag program. It's automatic admission to the UCs.
Hmm.
Why don't you do 2 years, finish out your junior lifting career, and then go to UC Berkeley? Because the 2 girls that are at Berkeley now had a really tough time. They got into Berkeley, so go to Berkeley, but they're studying engineering and whatever science, and they're having a really tough time making progress in weightlifting. But I'm never going to tell them not to go to Berkeley. The
Right.
conversation is like, when you're done with Berkeley, if you're still on the ranking list, you need to give this a couple years to try to go to the Olympics and then go to grad school. So you give yourself that, don't want to come back and be like, hey, I was a world medalist and the junior and the youth, and I never really gave it a go for 28. It's like, yo, if you're graduating 26 and the Olympics are in 28, you might want to give it a go, because by 2027, they know who's going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, and we have a lot of help. I can't get it's not just me. We had 8 coaches at youth nationals, 8. And now that we have the commercial gym, basically somebody's in charge every day. I'm only in charge on Mondays. Now, obviously when I'm there, I'm coaching, even if I'm not in charge, I'm coaching, I own the gym. So, yes, I guess I'm in charge, but it's the coach on staff is running the workout. I'm more of like, hey, where can I help? Oh, I got a new kid. I'm the onboard guy. Give me the new kid. Give me the
Okay.
new kid that can't squat, right? And then you build a relationship with the new kid, and then the new kid sees that you did that for everybody else in the gym, so they feel a little bit more part of it. So
So
that's kind of
many
where it's. Go ahead.
so many coaches thrive on this idea of working with the most experienced, the most elite, the most high level lifter, and here you are, you're like, give me the beginner. Why is that?
It's funny. Your questions are so time not sensitive, they're time appropriate. I had a pretty deep meeting with one of my former athletes who's transitioning to coach, and I've known her for a long time, and I love her to pieces, and I kind of, and I'm not perfect, I make mistakes every day, and I said, Jenny, I need you to learn from my mistakes. You can't force a coaching relationship. I said, you just have to let it grow organically. Let people come to you. They will come to you. You're a really good coach. You were a lifter. I was never a lifter. I said, people come to me because in the back of their mind, I was the first person they worked out with at the gym. I was the first person to give them words of encouragement when they didn't think that they could do it. I was the first person to believe in them before they believed in themselves. Because if there's one thing that I think I'm good at, I know who could be good. And I never lie. One of the moms this week, it was funny. She went out there. I was like, I knew she wanted to talk. So I just hopped into the passenger seat. She's like, Coach, how come you never really talk to my daughter? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, ask her how it goes. And if you said anything during the workout, she's always like, he didn't say much. I was like, ma'am, your daughter's number 1 in the country. There's not much to say. I'm just there to watch her lift. And when she needs my help, I will be the voice that she'll listen to, because A, I haven't said a lot, even though I talk a lot, and B, I was the first voice she heard. So the real life example is, we're at the 2018 World Championships, and my good friend Ben, who coached Nini at the Olympics, we were both at the World Championships. Nini missed her first 2 lifts, and I said something to Nini, not Ben, because the first words she heard in the weight room were from me. And all I said was, Nini, just snatch. And she made it. She didn't make it because I said something smart. She made it because something about the simplicity and the familiarity of the voice. And right, we go back to do less. Just snatch. And the only reason I told her that was because in 2000, D'Angelo Soria was going for the junior American record in the snatch and opened it, missed his first, Clarked his second, and that's what I said. I said, D'Angelo, just fucking snatch it, right? And it's like, oh, that's the same voice that was yelling at me when I was a freshman, coming in to max out at lunch with no lunch and no weightlifting shoes and baggy shorts, right? It was the same voice that was yelling at me about not having my weightlifting shoes or not having or trying to lift in some skinny jeans, you know? It's the voice. And I think a lot of people miss that, right? And I'm not dogging anybody, but there are coaches at the Olympics, the last couple Olympics, that are phenomenal coaches. But because they weren't that first voice, there's something, it's not missing. Everybody plays a role. Like, it's just so much more powerful when that's the first voice. And I'll give you a very real life example. Because right now we're in February?
Mm-hmm.
So the best weightlifter in the United States is a girl named Olivia Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been lifting with the same coach since she was 11 years old. And I remember being at the Junior Pan Ams with her and her coach. And she was doing great, but not like so great that she would go to the Olympics. And I said, Olivia, you got one shot at this. Because I've had kids be first alternates in 3 Olympics. And not their fault.
Right.
Like USA weightlifting's fault. That's a whole nother thing. Like that's a whole nother podcast, right? I said, you need to move back home and lift with coach. I said, your friend over here, Amanda, is going to Berkeley. That's a different deal. She's not going to the Olympics right now. She'll go to the next one, hopefully. She got into Berkeley. She has to do that. Her parents moved out of state. Your parents are still in state. Go to school like next to the gym. And in the year that she's moved home, she's put 10 kilos on her clean and jerk and 6 kilos on her snatch. Why? Because when she walks into the gym, it's the same voice. Olivia, we are doing snatches today. Olivia, we're going to work on our jerks today. Olivia, today we're heavy back squats. It's that same voice, and it's a simple workout. And if you get any of those kids on a podcast, that's the girl, because she's going to win the gold medal because she's not on social media. She goes to the gym 5 days a week. She doesn't work out 10 times. She's not doing some fancy Excel spreadsheet program. She just works. And she's the one generation in a million. She's 1 in a million of that. Just who back squats 200 kilos for 3? Who does that? That's not
with a smile on her face.
That's not a squat program.
Yeah.
That girl's country strong.
Yeah.
She is so good that the Chinese are. I'm telling you this, I'm not an expert. I don't think the Chinese are sending a 71. She's that badass.
Yeah.
And the American girls, they moved out of her weight class. Smart. Thank Kate Vibert. Smart move. Hella smart.
Yeah.
Super smart girl. Super hard worker. But Kate Vibert, Maddie Rogers, phenomenal lifters. Really good people. I don't know them that well, but I've seen them. They're nothing but nice to me, right? Because they competed with Jenny Arthur, against, whatever. I think the one thing that they're missing is the simplicity of it all, because social media is so big now, right? They're pretty important people in society in terms of the examples that they're setting, the very good examples of what they're setting for young women. They are. Hey, if those 2 girls were my daughters, I'd be really proud of them, because they wear the emotions on the sleeve. They put it out there, and this is me.
Yeah.
But that also muddies the water. Less is more. If I'm trying to go to the Olympics, maybe I don't have a social media account. Maybe I don't have all these people talking to me.
Right.
I've coached 2 Olympians, Jenny and Nini. Jenny has a pretty good social media following. 2015, 2016, I don't think she had, I mean, I'd have to look. I don't think she had an Instagram. The other guys who were trying to go to the Olympics that were on my team were all about Instagram. I'm going to clean and jerk 210, post it that night, which was great. I was reposting it. I was probably part of the problem. I never knew what Jenny was doing. I'd have to call her. Hey, Jenny, how's it going? Because I didn't write her programs, nothing. Our relationship was simple. Our relationship was because I was the person in her most stressful time as a weightlifter when she was 17 years old. I picked up the phone and called her dad. I said, Mr. Arthur, I will make sure that Jenny gets home safe. That's all I said. And she was able to go to Malaysia. So I was there for 16 days with her. And it was like, I'm going to make sure this young woman gets home safe, because she was one of the only high school kids.
Okay.
She didn't really know what she was doing. So I would just like tell her what to do every day and just talk to her. And, you know, she ended up going to the training center. And then 18 months later, a tap on the shoulder at the American Open when my wife, you know, we had just had a baby and my wife was lifting, and it was so cool because we had a baby and she was lifting after having a baby. And it's Jenny Arthur in the hotel line. Coach, can you help me this weekend? I looked at my wife and I was like, yes, Jenny, you're lifting with my wife. You're in the same weight class. Of course I can help you. It was organic. It was simple. I never programmed for her. I never coached her in person for more than like a week at a time, right? Camps, international competitions. When we went to meets, I didn't talk about weightlifting. I talked about life. And a young black woman who was in Colorado Springs trying to make it through with a stipend and all these other things. My only job with Jenny was to make sure that she got paid, make sure that she was healthy, and make sure at the end that she was in the right weight class, because they were putting in the wrong weight class. And the minute they put her in the right weight class, that was the first time I was her coach. On paper, it was like 2015 World Championships. I said, Jenny, I can't help you unless I'm your coach. And then we moved her from the 69s to the 75s, and in one meet, she made it to the Olympics because she lifted the same amount of weight in a weaker weight class and scored more points. And that made sure that she got paid for the next 4 years. It's like, it's the voice. It's the voice. So like, if I love being the first voice with a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, you know, I take my son to rugby practice, like, oh, that's the guy that taught my cousin how to lift. Like, yeah, I was the first guy. I mean, there's 10 other coaches in the gym, but let me be the first guy because I enjoy it. And because everybody else is too busy coaching everybody else, like doing a great job. And that's not their cup of tea. Right. And with everybody that's ever lifted for us, at least in our neck of the woods, I was the first guy. Out of all the world team members, there hasn't been one person that's brought a kid in to our team who's made it to the world championships. It's always been me, because I've had the ability to go and be that first guy. Like, go and get them. Just get them and bring them to the gym. And now that we're not at a school, it's people are coming to us. So it's even easier. But they have to come to you and they have to hear that one voice, you know? And it doesn't have to be me, but it usually is me because I enjoy doing it.
Before I let you go, Coach, I have a question about the profession of weightlifting. Thinking about weightlifting coaching as a profession, I know we all do it for a variety of reasons. You want to be the first voice. I'm in it to inspire and empower women to do strong things and feel strong. So this has evolved into a business, right? And a profession where we're educating and training people. What are we missing in your perspective from this profession to help it propel sport forward?
Whoa, a very multi-layered question. So the good thing is it is a profession, and there are very great examples of how to do this for a living. But it's almost like, so I'm going to use my friend Greg Everett. He was the internet coach before there was an internet. Like, he built his website. He is so smart, and he's built a great business, and he's a really, really good coach. But I don't think everybody can be. I can't do it. There's no way. There's only one Greg Everett. Then there's somebody like Will Fleming and Spencer Arnold that are just They're really, really good at what they do. So I think there's this dichotomy. Those coaches get people in their peak. Will Fleming, Spencer Arnold. We're missing like the bridge between people like myself and the Greg Everett. I don't want to be Greg Everett. It's too much work. He's too smart. I literally had to ask him, like, yo, Greg, you need to send me a copy of your book because I'm listening to it on Audible and I'm lost. And I was a French major. I'm like good at reading. I think it's starting. Greg and Will did a very cool seminar somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Indiana or something, and invited other coaches. I think what I think's always been missing, and not only just the business part of it, but the coaching part of it, there hasn't been a concerted effort to get coaches together to share ideas,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
There's
I agree.
something that I'm doing that's pretty good. I know it. We had 25 kids at nationals last year. What am I doing to get 25 kids to nationals? Conversely, how is Greg Everett able to divide his time up between countries from like five athletes from 5 different countries, a website, book producer, Instagram educator, right?
Right.
How's Spencer Arnold doing it with 5 Olympians in the gym? How does he do it? I don't know. Shit, I'd fly out to Georgia and just be. And he's a friend of mine. We're not like best buds, but we've been to trips together. He respects me. I respect him. He has kids. I have kids. How about that? How do you balance fatherhood? I was at the Junior Worlds with him, and he was about to have another baby, or he had just had another baby, and we're in Uzbekistan for 16 days. Beautiful country, but like I missed 16 days with my kids, right?
Right.
So, and I'm older than him. I'm 46, and I have 2 kids. So for me, it's like now I'm just bringing the kids with me on weightlifting trips. So the discussion I'm having with my wife is, can I keep the kids all week at nationals? Because not even Uzbekistan, but we're going to Pittsburgh. You might as well be Uzbekistan. We're going to be gone for 10 days, right? So I think and it's not USA weightlifting fault, but if we bring it full circle back to Danny Camargo, why am I a better weightlifting coach because of Danny Camargo? I got to spend 3 days with him at the training center in 2006. And you know what he told me? He sold me. He said, yo, bring your 5 best kids. I remember it I'm telling you, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was 20 years ago. Bring your best kids to Almonte, Doherty. We're running the junior nationals. So I literally on the phone, I called the Tiongson brothers, Christian Kalub, and David Garcia, and this kid Brian Herwick, and we went to Almonte Springs for the junior nationals. And David Garcia sat there and watched the Pan Am trials, and unfortunately, Oscar Chaplin hurt himself that day.
Mm-hmm.
But David Garcia was watching weightlifting until 1 o'clock in the morning. And guess who ends up clean and jerking like 10 years later? David Garcia. Guess who ends up winning senior nationals at 16? Christian Kalub. Guess who ended up, winning our first overall gold medal ever for our hassle-free? JC Meltionkson. Because Danny Camargo collaborated. He saw a coach that didn't. I had never been a lifter. Danny had been to the training center. He was like the guy. He was a cop. He was young. He was brash. He was like, hey, he's clean jerked 180 before. This guy definitely knows what he's doing. Now he's transitioning to coaching. Everybody's in a silo.
Yeah.
I talk to Danny Camargo every 3 months at a weight. Do you think I really have? We don't even have time to go to the bar and like have a ginger ale and a beer and talk about life.
Right.
Life as a father, life as a coach, like as a mentor, right? I'm lucky because there's 10 other coaches at the gym. Like we got a coaches call tonight, 6 coaches. They're all making, a whopping $30 an hour at the gym, which is better than when I started. I did it for free.
Yeah.
I did the math this week. I think I lost $500,000 in 20 years of salary going to weightlifting.
Yeah. Yep.
$500,000. Like that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I was
That's a
sick.
lot in California too.
I was sick for 4 days in 20 years.
Yeah.
I had 0 sick leave when I left.
Right.
because I used it all to. I lost money going to the Olympics. I was coaching a sport that I was teaching in class and lost days of instruction because I was a coach for Team USA. That is where we need that collaboration.
Right.
You
I
know,
agree.
I think I said this in my meeting yesterday. I told this. It's that's a whole nother story. My relationship with this young woman who's now a mom said, "You're a mom now and a coach. Your job is to uplift others. You need to uplift people in the gym because I'm not out of gas, but I've been doing it a long time. Now I have my own children. Like I need to uplift my children instead of other people's children, right? Because my son was 6 months old and I left for the Olympics. My daughter was like 4 years old and I went to Turkmenistan. Like that can't happen anymore.
Right.
So I literally said, that is your job, whether you like it or not, whether you're getting paid or not. You need to uplift other people, other coaches, go and help. How many coaching clinics have I done for free that are not like, oh my God, I'm going to make $1 million? How many level ones do I teach? Just because, yes. Do I make some money? Yeah, but I build relationships with other
Mm-hmm.
coaches. So for other coaches, I'm always that voice. Like I'll get a text like, Coach, what do you think about this? It's not because I'm better. It's just because I've made all the mistakes before. I've had 7,500 lifters. How many mistakes have I made there? So, right. It's just full circle, like collaborating. I would say if we're ending on two notes, it's collaboration and uplifting others, right? Why did I agree to do this talk? Because Danny Camargo reached out and said, you should do this. No problem, Danny. She seems like a really nice person. Let's do it, right? Collaborate, uplift, and then keep it simple. Less is more. I don't need 30 workouts. I need 3. I don't need 6 exercises in a workout. I need 4 or 3. Some days it's only 2, right? So I think that's kind of like what we need,
I love
and
that.
hopefully it's coming. Maybe that's the next time I see Greg Everett, I'm going to be like, dude, you need to host a coaches seminar.
Hey,
Whatever.
maybe that's the next thing that we'll collaborate on. We'll
There we
get
go.
some people on a call and see how we can. That's my field,
We're in
education.
trouble.
I
Me and
love
Danny
education.
Camargo in the same room talking. Oh my God.
So I want to I thought about that in the last hour that we've been talking. So I definitely think that there's some similarities there between you and
Yeah,
Danny. But Coach, I want to thank you for your time. I really,
always.
really appreciate it. This was a great conversation. And believe it or not, I have a whole page of questions that I haven't even gotten to. So maybe we will
We can
connect
do it
again
again.
in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Your
Loved it.
questions are amazing.
Thank you so much.
They
Thank you
are
so much.
so they are so thought provoking. I'm not blowing smoke. They're
Thank you.
really good questions. They get to the heart of what, and we don't get to do it enough.
Nope. Because we're too busy battling periodization and how things should be undulating and how many times a week we should squat, which is
No,
why I
so
started this
I'll,
podcast in the first
the,
place.
the last thing I'll say, and hopefully if somebody like fast forwards through all my bullshit, I'm gonna give you an old school football analogy, which has to do with Olivia Reeves. And remember, I'm biased. She's my faves. It's never the X's and the O's. It's always the Jimmies and the Joes.
Okay.
Don't for 1 second think that Olivia Reeves is going to be an Olympic medalist because of her program. She's going to be an Olympic medalist because she's a phenomenal athlete and she's a wonderful human being as a coach who's guiding her.
Mm.
It's the Jimmies and the Joes, or the Janes and the Joes, however you want to do it.
I like
Right?
Janes and Joes. Let's go with that
There we
one.
go.
Thank
It's
you
not,
so
yeah,
much.
so let's rephrase that. It's never the X's or the O's. It's the Janes and the Joes.
Love it. Love it. We're going to put that on a
Put that on a
t-shirt.
t-shirt.
We're going to put that on a t-shirt. Thank you so much for your time. I
Hey,
can't wait to share
have a
this.
have a blessed week, and this was good for me.